Hi, Teacher Alyssa back with advice for Mock 2 with VIPKID. The first thing that you want to do is make sure that you prepare heavily. You really don't want to go over your time on this one. You really don't want to go too fast. You don't want to go too slow. With Mock 1, they're a little bit more lenient on it, but by the time you're doing your Mock 2, they want to see that you can do it within the amount of time that you're supposed to. You have to remember that these kids' parents are paying for 25 minutes. So you can't finish too early, but you also don't want to go over your time because you can't be late for your next class or you will be considered a teacher no-show and then not get paid. So make sure you practice the time. You will be doing a level 1 lesson for 15 minutes, and that's what my last video talked about. So if you want to see that one, I'll link it below. It's kind of similar. It's basically the same thing as the Mock 1 lesson. And then you'll be doing a level 3 lesson for 15 minutes. That's what I'm going to talk more about in this video. The second thing I would recommend is to definitely wear your orange shirt that you wore in your Mock 1 interview, because they're going to want to know for sure by now that you are prepared and ready to begin teaching. If you make it to Mock 2, it's very likely that they just want to see you teach one more time before they hire you. So I would definitely have that orange shirt. And then my third tip would be to have some sort of background. It doesn't necessarily have to relate to the lesson, but it does help if it's something that you can use. I found my maps extremely helpful in my Mock 2 interview because you may or may not be teaching about countries. So I would consider getting a map. You can get them for really cheap at like Target, and I got these at Mardell's, the teaching store in Little Rock, but Hobby Lobby has them. They're like $2. They're really cheap. So I would really recommend the maps. They really loved seeing that in my interview. They even commented on it. And you can use them. My fourth tip would be to keep up your energy. Just like I said in the last video, energy is probably the most important personality trait that they're looking for in a VIPKID teacher. You do have to get up super early, so you need to make sure that you can exhibit that energy that you will have at 4 a.m. during your Mock 2 interview. So energy, backgrounds. Also, make sure that you teach the vocabulary on the slides. So, for example, you may be teaching about country or flag. Keep your incidental language low, so you don't want to say like, okay, now you see a flag, this is a flag. No, you just want to be straight and to the point. So for mine, I actually had these props. I have a China flag and an American flag. And so they loved seeing my flags. They commented on this. They said that it was great to have these because it was a good visual for the kids. Also, you may go over some terms that in the level 3 lesson, like stands for or represents or something along those lines. I can't really remember, but I did use this sign and I got really good compliments on this as well. They liked that it was a visual way to show students that represents means stands for, because I'm pretty sure by level 3 they've learned what the equal sign means, that it means represents. Like I said earlier, make sure you teach the vocabulary first on every slide. If it's a word that's in bold red letters, that means that it's a vocabulary word. It is a target objective for the lesson. That's what they're looking for that you can teach. So, for example, if you're teaching flag, I would say to the student, flag, flag, flag. What is this? This is a flag. You want to keep that incidental language down and also have visuals to just help the kid understand what they're talking about. That's a good way to teach all of the vocabulary of the lesson. You don't have to have a prop for every single one, but the simple ones, like stuff you can print out, I would do it just because it's easy and it shows that you prepared well. And you will use these again when you actually teach for VIPKID. You'll use them all the time. They will also want to see that you have a reward system. You can feel free to use the one that VIPKID provides for you. I don't really like it, so I made a few of my own. This is the one that I use the most often. It's not the one that I used in my Mock 2, but if I had it at the time, I think I would have, because it's just easy and it's cute and the kids get it. I really like this one. So it's just a treasure box that I printed out and laminated, and then I printed out these little coins. and I put little tacky stuff on the back, and I've used this like for weeks now, and it's still sticky. And I just say, if you do a good job, you get to put a coin in the treasure box. And they love that. They eat it up. So I would definitely have a reward system. I would try to have your own reward system if possible, just because it shows creativity and it shows that you have the ability to come up with new stuff. Because once you have regular students, which you will pretty soon, most likely, if you become a VIPKID teacher, they're not going to want to see the same reward systems all the time. They're going to want to see new stuff, and they don't want to see the same smiley face all the time with the same teeth, or the same treasure box, or the same little forest scene where you put birds on it. They want something new. You have to keep the student engaged. That's one of the main objectives of being a teacher for VIPKID. You have to keep the students interested. It cannot be the same old all the time. Just like us, we get bored of things easily, so do kids. The evaluator will want to see that you have the student talking at least 70% of the time, especially with the level 3 lesson. The kid is reading more. They're able to read most of the slides. You want to ask them, can you read on the slides that you want them to read the sentences, and they will read for you. They may need a little help with pronouncing certain words, but you can help with that and still get that 70-30 ratio. So again, just make sure that you're talking around 30% of the time and the student is talking around 70% of the time, to ensure that they're actually doing the lesson and they're practicing it on their own and they're retaining it through practice. And the last tip that I have for you is to make sure that you engage the student in discussion further than just what's on the slides. So you may talk about, like when you're talking about countries, you may say, what country do you live in? And they may or may not get it. If they don't get it, you may say, for an example, say, I live in America. Where do you live? And then usually they'll get that, they'll say, I live in China. And so you can relate to all kinds of things on the slides. Like if there's a McDonald's symbol on the slide, you can ask them if they've ever seen a McDonald's, if they've ever been to a McDonald's, what is their favorite food at McDonald's. Anything at all that they could relate to that you could create a further conversation out of gets them practicing those conversational skills, and that's what they're looking for whenever it gets to level 3. I found that I really enjoyed teaching a level 3 lesson with my Mock 2 because it, number one, gave me more practice, but number two, I thought it was easier because the student does more of the work and they read more, and you're not having to do as much of the repeating. They still do repeat what you say, but it's not as, I guess, meticulous, or however you want to say it, with the older students or the more advanced students, because they are doing more work than the younger ones, and they already have a little bit of prior knowledge. Some have a lot of prior knowledge that is really useful, and it makes the conversations fun. You get to know these students, and you get to form bonds with them. So just pretend in the Mock 2 like you're actually speaking to around a 8 to maybe like 12-year-old student. It just depends on their level when you're actually in the classroom. But you're going to be somewhere in that age range. And just pretend like you're talking to one of them about where they live and what they like and what is in their country, and just create that conversation. But like I said in the beginning, make sure that you don't go past time. This time it's very important. Practice your lesson 15 times before you do your Mock 2 if you have to, because they are looking for timing. Make sure you don't spend a whole lot of time on the warm-up. It's not that important. If you can see that the kid gets the warm-up, then you don't have to do the whole slide every time. Just make sure that they understand the quick, little first 1 or 2 things, and then move on to the next slide. I would get past that warm-up as fast as possible, and then spend the remainder of my time on learning the vocabulary, the target sentences, and just teaching the objectives of the lesson and making sure that I'm done whenever I'm supposed to be done. So again,